Namaste, and welcome to 10 Minutes with Dr. Marc Halpern. That's me, and I'm honored to share this sacred time with all of you. Today I'll be talking about depression and Ayurveda. Depression is a subject that a lot of people don't want to talk about, not with other people, because many times people are embarrassed about the depression that they have. It has a stigma that's associated with it. So I'm honored to be able to share this time where we can talk about it together and explore it. And if you or someone you know is suffering from depression, it's my great hope that what you learn today will either help you or the loved ones in your life. Ayurveda has a lot to share with you about depression. In fact, Ayurveda has a unique understanding of depression, and if we can understand how Ayurveda views depression, we can also come to learn that depression is manageable, treatable, and often preventable through the practice of Ayurvedic medicine. So let's take a closer look. When we look at depression, we have to come to realize that it's more common than most people realize. Various statistics say that the number of people that experience significant depression each year is somewhere between 7 and 10%. Now, this is a large number of people in our population. And while 7 to 10% seems like a large number, certain populations actually have much higher levels. So for instance, there's a type of depression called postpartum depression, which affects somewhere between 20 and 80% of women that have given birth, causing mood swings that include depression. There's also individuals that have a career that often is associated with more depression, and well, that's caregivers. Caregivers of all fields, whether you're a doctor, a dentist, or you're caring for someone who is an elder, have a much higher level of depression. In fact, some statistics show that the depression level among caregivers can be as high as 80%. This is extraordinary. So it's so important for us to know how to manage the mind and to know how to work with this feeling so that it doesn't impact our lives in a negative way. The two major types of depression, or the two most important, I guess, common types of depression that people talk about, are major depression or major depressive disorder and persistent depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder refers to a severe, intense episode of depression where you really crash, whereas persistent depressive disorder is a lower grade depression that is persistent, and oftentimes a person does not come up to a level of enthusiasm for life that we would consider to be desirable. It's just a low grade, constant depression. I'm going to focus on the two of those since they are the most common forms of depression that affect people. Let's look at them from an Ayurvedic perspective. Major depressive disorder is a disorder of Vata dosha. In a circumstance where somebody's energy really crashes, we have two things that are happening in that person. We have what we call a low level of prana. Prana is one of the subtle energies that moves through the mind and particularly through the subtle body. We have a low level of prana, and we also have a low level of ojas. Both of these can be very low in major depressive disorder. Prana is what gives us our enthusiasm for life. So when we have low prana, we have a very low enthusiasm for life, and it's very low in major depressive disorder. Now, it's very low, and so too is ojas. Ojas is what provides us with our level of contentment. That's also very low. So a person with major depressive disorder has very low prana and very low ojas. The origin of this, or we could say it is most common in individuals with vata vitiation. Now, this is a situation that is severe, and if it's left untreated, this is the kind of depression that can potentially, it doesn't always, of course it doesn't always, but it can potentially lead to suicidal tendencies when prana gets very, very low and ojas gets very, very low. That person is really crashed. Now, this is different than persistent depressive disorder. In persistent depressive disorder, prana is also low. Absolutely. And there is a loss of life energy, a loss of enthusiasm for life. But in this condition, ojas is higher. Now, I'm not saying that it's higher than normal, but it is higher than we see it in a person with major depressive disorder. In other words, there's a loss of life energy, but there's a higher degree of contentment. Now, that doesn't mean there's a high degree of contentment, just higher. So this person is just kind of melancholic. This is a person who has a lower level of depression. So it's a different condition and it's treated differently in Ayurvedic medicine. In fact, in Ayurvedic medicine, oftentimes what we see is that a person with persistent depressive disorder has more of a kapha imbalance, this chronic depression, whereas a person with major depressive disorder has more of a vata imbalance. So you can imagine, if you understand Ayurveda, that these treatments are going to be very different. We'll start off with major depressive disorder and how to treat that. The single most important thing to remember is that we want to raise both prana and ojas. That's very important. But of the two, raising ojas is more important. In fact, ojas is the container for prana. So until we're able to raise our ojas, we cannot focus on increasing prana. So let's focus on increasing ojas. We increase ojas through healthy and proper digestion of foods that have a high ojas building potential. These are heavier foods, more nourishing foods. Foods such as whole grains, foods such as oils, good high quality raw milk. That has a lot of ojas building potential in it. Even root vegetables have a significant amount of ojas building potential. All of these foods are served warm and cooked. That helps you to digest them, and it also makes it more nourishing. This is not a time to purify the body. It's a time to restore and re-nourish the body. Nourishment builds ojas. Now, these same foods that build ojas, they have the potential to be difficult to digest, and when they are difficult to digest, instead of ojas, we build ama. Ama is a toxin in the body. So there's a danger here. We're trying to build the ojas, but if we don't do it properly, a person can become more toxic, and that toxicity can actually increase their depression. So it's very important to focus on the quality of digestion as well as taking in the foods that are going to build ojas. And this is why it can be very helpful to work closely with a practitioner to assure proper digestion of the proper foods that build ojas in your body. Again, dairy, whole grains, oils, nuts, root vegetables. These are examples of foods that, when properly digested, increase ojas and increase your level of contentment in the body. Once ojas has been built, then you can turn your focus toward building prana, or life energy, in the body. All through that process of building ojas, the depression will get better and better and better. And then when you're able to focus on the prana, it will really get better because the life energy rapidly increases. We're going to talk about how to build the prana in just a moment. We'll talk about that now in relationship to persistent depressive disorder. In persistent depressive disorder, remember that prana is also very low, but the ojas is not as low. So we don't focus on the ojas. In fact, we have enough ojas to act as a container for prana. We just don't have enough prana. So now is the time to focus on increasing prana. How do we do that? Well, it's a different kind of a diet. It's going to involve foods that tend to be more purifying and also more energizing. For instance, raw juices, when you juice greens, they are filled with prana. And those greens in general are filled with prana. All those vegetables, and they don't have to be green, but the green ones have the most prana in them. All those vegetables have so much life energy in them. So if you want to treat kapha and increase your prana. Now, in addition to this, there's many yoga practices, such as breathing practices called pranayama, that also will benefit increasing the prana in your mind. So that can be extremely beneficial for you. So perhaps take some yoga classes. Exercise in general will increase your prana. So more exercise More breathing practices, yoga classes that are more energizing would be beneficial, as well as a diet that is lighter. I hope that these suggestions will help lift you out of your depression. Whether you have major depressive disorder or you have persistent depressive disorder, there is an Ayurvedic program that can help you. And I would encourage you, if you want to learn more, to take a look at some of my longer videos that I've done on Ayurveda and the management of depression. This will give you even more ideas and more support as you go through your healing journey. Many blessings to you as you walk this healing path. Know that you can be well. Depression does not have to rule your life. You have the power to lift yourself out of that depression. You need the knowledge and you need the inspiration, the motivation to do that. And I know that's a challenge when you have depression, and that's why it can be helpful for you to work with a practitioner that can support you on your journey. Many blessings once again on that journey, and know that you can be well. Be well, be kind, and be loved. Namaste.